Waking up every day with a clear sense of purpose. Not shaken by setbacks. Not pulled by the chaos around you. Fully focused on what actually matters. It sounds unrealistic. Like it belongs to a different kind of person. But it doesn't. That level of control isn't about being extraordinary. It comes down to seeing something most people miss. So, stop. And look closer. Because the real struggle isn't a lack of discipline. It is a lack of direction. Most people live reacting, rather than choosing. They drift from one distraction to the next, rarely pausing to consider if the path they are on is truly theirs. Every day, countless decisions are made from habit, impulse, or fear of discomfort, not clarity. There is a quiet pressure that grows when you know you are capable of more, but fail to align your actions with your principles. Today, we uncover the invisible architecture of self-mastery. A truth that will shift how you view effort forever. Are you ready to stop reacting to life? And start directing it? Let's begin.
Welcome to True Stoic Journal, the path to inner control.
Consider how often we carry yesterday's weight into today. Each morning we step into the world with possibility, yet our minds remain tethered to what has already passed. Failures we thought were buried. Fears we hoped were silenced. Moments of hesitation and regret. They linger quietly, shaping the way you think and act. These remnants of yesterday do not announce themselves, but they steer your attention, distort your priorities, and shrink the space where fresh choices might emerge. We may believe we are starting anew, but energy is often diluted by invisible chains. Every step toward a goal feels heavier than it should. Deciding to move forward is slowed by mental friction we fail to recognize. It is not the world holding us back. It is the unexamined weight of what we have already lived. The Stoics understood this deeply. Much of human suffering comes not from external events, but from clinging to impressions of the past. Epictetus once wrote, "People are disturbed not by things themselves, but by their view of them." Replaying old mistakes binds present choices to events that can no longer be changed. Attachment to these impressions becomes a subtle yet persistent barrier. It shapes how we perceive challenges, how we take risks, and how we trust ourselves. Old fears cast a shadow over every decision, coloring outcomes before they even occur. Beginning is never purely external. It starts with the inner state. Without releasing what no longer serves, every intention and goal is burdened by an unseen weight. Imagine waking each day with clarity, free from these invisible anchors. Attempting a task while carrying old mistakes feels heavier than approaching it with a mind uncluttered and calm. Momentum emerges not from force or effort alone, but from alignment between purpose and mental space. When emotional clutter is released, actions feel lighter, challenges feel manageable, and opportunities feel expansive. This is inner freedom. Marcus Aurelius observed, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The first step is not action alone. It is clearing what blocks the mind. Only when we acknowledge and release these residues can obstacles transform into steps forward instead of chains. The persistence of unresolved experiences is often hidden beneath busyness. Tasks, to-do lists, and distractions create the illusion of movement. While the mind remains tethered to the past, moving without clearing mental clutter rarely produces true momentum. Progress becomes fragmented. We may achieve small wins or check boxes, but the internal stagnation persists. Even disciplined effort can be misdirected if attention is divided between what is real now and what is no longer relevant. The Stoics cultivated a mental landscape where energy is directed toward what can be shaped, chosen, and mastered. They called this detachment, not from life, but from what life no longer requires. Closing old chapters is an act of discipline, not denial. It does not erase memory or pretend failure did not exist. It acknowledges the truth of experience while consciously choosing where to invest attention moving forward. Seneca advised, "We are always complaining that our days are few and acting as though there would be no end of them." Days are finite and carrying unnecessary burdens consumes the only resource we cannot replenish, present focus. Once that clarity settles in, something becomes obvious. You don't need to fix every mistake. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. You don't need to chase validation from those who never offered respect. Your presence, your attention, your energy, managed consciously, speaks more powerfully than reaction ever could. Progress is not the result of force, but of deliberate alignment. When you act from a place of clarity, fear diminishes, hesitation fades, and choices become naturally consistent with the person you intend to be. But clarity is only the foundation. The next consideration is the energy you bring into every action. It is not enough to have a cleared mind or to have shed the weight of previous regrets. The way we engage with the present moment determines the trajectory of all efforts. Goals are external markers. They exist on paper, as measurements of progress. Energy, on the other hand, is persistent. It moves, it accumulates, it resonates. It is the invisible current that informs every thought. It is the soil in which habits grow. Without conscious direction, energy can scatter in chaos, diluting effort and blurring clarity. The Stoics recognize that identity precedes action. Who you are becoming matters more than any outcome you pursue, because the outer world is constantly shifting. Whereas your inner disposition determines whether you can navigate those shifts with integrity. A moment of resistance may appear unbearable. Yet if your identity is aligned with virtue and discipline, it becomes a test of refinement rather than defeat. One practical approach to channel this energy is to select a guiding principle, a single word that anchors behavior. This word is more than a slogan. It is a lens through which all actions are interpreted. It might be discipline, focus, patience, or growth. Each time you are tempted to deviate from your intentions, it serves as a reminder of the identity you are cultivating. Choosing the right energy is a deliberate act. It requires reflection and honesty about the kind of individual who can act effectively. The Stoics taught that the inner citadel, the fortress of reason, must be fortified first. When energy is anchored in a consistent principle, the same effort produces disproportionate impact. Each moment becomes a choice, not a reaction. Each action reflects deliberate intention rather than habit or circumstance. Even small acts, when infused with conscious energy, accumulate into significant change. Discipline exercised in one area reinforces patience in another. Focus honed in study improves the quality of work and relationships alike. This is not abstract philosophy. It is applied psychology. Neuroscience shows that repeated, value-aligned behaviors rewire neural pathways. Energy, when intentionally directed, does not dissipate. It compounds. Distractions lose their appeal. External validation becomes secondary. The focus shifts from outcomes to cultivation. From results to refinement. Yet, energy alone is insufficient. Without structure, momentum dissipates. Most people pursue outcomes without first considering the architecture required to sustain them. Structure is the bridge between intention and reality. Without systems, energy becomes reactive, caught between distraction and fleeting inspiration. Systems are extensions of internal alignment. They translate intention into tangible reality by creating reliable pathways for energy to flow. The psychology of habit formation underscores this. Research demonstrates that behaviors repeated in predictable patterns reduce cognitive load. By establishing routines that align with your goals, the energy invested in each action is magnified. Marcus Aurelius wrote that life should be approached as a series of tasks, each performed with careful attention. Systems operationalize this principle, ensuring that values are translated into behavior even when motivation fluctuates. The environment we inhabit exerts a far greater influence on our actions than willpower ever can. Most people overestimate willpower. But willpower is finite. Conditions are persistent. The spaces we occupy, the objects we surround ourselves with, the habits we normalize, these shape behavior silently. A cluttered environment rewards distraction. Conversely, spaces designed to reinforce purpose act as scaffolding for consistent action. Physical surroundings influence performance. If the goal is to maintain health, the tools in your daily life play a decisive role. Success is rarely about working harder against chaos. It is about designing conditions where energy flows naturally toward purpose. This influence extends to mental inputs. The thoughts, media, and conversations we allow into our minds shape our cognition. By curating inputs intentionally, selecting content that supports growth, we build mental spaces that mirror our physical organization. The path to mastery is rarely straight. It is filled with trials and moments of doubt. Most people fail because they demand perfection too early. They expect immediate clarity and constant progress. When imperfection appears, they falter. Fear of failure becomes a barrier. But progress is born from engagement with imperfection. Growth occurs in the tension between what is feared and what is necessary. By allowing yourself to stumble and experiment without judgment, you cultivate internal flexibility. What appears as imperfection is often the crucible in which mastery is forged. Failure is an inevitable teacher. When it occurs, it exposes gaps in understanding. A person pursuing mastery treats failure as data, not a verdict. Each setback is an opportunity to adjust tactics and build resilience. Consider how the mind responds to repeated sensory engagement. Neuroscience demonstrates that the brain encodes imagined experiences similarly to real ones. Each time a scenario is vividly visualized, neural circuits are activated. This is why elite performers rehearse outcomes in their minds before executing them. The Stoics understood this principle intuitively. They practiced mental visualization, imagining effort and struggle primes the body, encountering adversity and acting with vision. Without emotional depth is shallow. The mind requires felt experience to create an actionable plan. The pride of small victories and the focus required for effort must be felt in the imagination first. Emotional engagement transforms a distant idea into an internal reality. One that shapes behavior instinctively. Each imagined obstacle becomes a bridge to skill rather than a barrier. Preparation reduces the power of external events over our inner state. Embodying vision is about synchronizing mind, body, and emotion. Each act of visualization strengthens neural pathways and improves decision-making. These rehearsed experiences reduce hesitation and increase clarity. Vision becomes actionable when it is felt deeply and repeatedly. It becomes the invisible infrastructure of achievement. Resistance is also misunderstood. Most treat it as a signal that something should be avoided. Yet resistance is a marker of growth. Fear and uncertainty are the brain's recoil to novelty. Recognizing resistance as feedback allows you to approach difficulty with discernment. Each encounter with discomfort is an opportunity to strengthen resolve. The Stoics taught that courage is the mastery of action despite fear. Discomfort should be reframed as a necessary companion. Tasks that are easy to execute rarely reveal the strength of resolve. Real growth emerges where resistance is strongest. When you act despite the pull of avoidance, you strengthen the internal capacity to act decisively. Resistance functions as a mirror reflecting untapped potential. Every choice to act reinforces competence and agency. Finally, accountability magnifies progress. Effort in isolation is fragile. Motivation falters. When action is observed and goals are shared with a thoughtful group, momentum compounds. Discipline in solitude is limited by self-perception. Accountability transforms intention into a measurable process. The right circle acts as a mirror, revealing gaps in your alignment. True accountability arises in a circle that comprehends your path. It creates an environment where choices are scrutinized in service of principle. Public commitment paired with support converts intentions into reality. Shared energy multiplies the impact of modest progress. This cycle compounds, producing sustained engagement and accelerated growth. Every choice you make shapes the person you are becoming. Growth is forged in clarity, discipline, and consistent action. quietly building momentum until what once felt impossible becomes natural. Remember, the strength to act and the wisdom to persevere are cultivated within you. In the space where intention meets effort. Let each day be a deliberate step toward the life you are capable of creating. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal and for dedicating your attention to mastery. If you want to continue expanding your perspective, explore the suggested videos on the screen now. And let the practice of intentional living carry forward into every moment of your life. Stay bold. Stay silent. Stay stoic.